If nature were to use words, she would tell us that here, in this corner of the world, in Venezuela's Guayana and Amazonian regions, you can find the impressive presence of the Guayana Shield ecosystems, the millennial, primal, and enduring continent, up until now, relatively protected. If we add the testimony of researchers, scientists, and lovers of the tropical forests, savannas, and rivers located south of the Orinoco River, we realize that this incomparable wealth also serves as the pivot point for the existence of humans living here, in this country, Venezuela. We are stewards of this wealth, this land of more than 1,000 rivers, having a special geological morphology consisting of unique tepui tabletop mountains and savannas, exuberant flora, a rich and diverse fauna, and proven potential for sustainability. But have you heard? What's been happening is a disaster, a country devastated. It's not just the ecological destruction of Venezuela's Amazonia, but also a cultural calamity. It's a high-risk attempt against the region's social and physical health. It's a threat to the nation's sovereignty and the human rights of the Venezuelan people. This vast area, covering almost 112,000 square kilometers, expands southward from the right bank of the lower Orinoco River in the curved shape of a wide belt, and is known as the Orinoco Mining Arc, an area rich in mineral resources. The mining arc occupies land in 3 states, Bolivar, Amazonas, and Delta Amacuro, and is endowed in forest reserves, national parks, protected river basins, and biosphere reserves. Many of these natural phenomena are protected by international treaties that have failed to fend off their destruction. Here, at the very heart of Canaima National Park, as well as in Yapacana National Park, which has become a bastion for foreign paramilitary forces, as well as at Las Claritas, located in the Imataca Forest Reserve, a devastated area and the epicenter of the mining arc. The devastation is continuous, and the mining activity, all of it illegal, is blatant. But let me explain the situation. In their desperate and chaotic quest to find and take possession of the gold, coltan, and diamonds, and whatever can be extracted from the land, Venezuelans and foreigners alike have moved in, and have split the land among themselves, all with the Venezuelan government's approval and participation.
La política aplicada en el país ha tenido un efecto dominó. Los jóvenes que deberían estar en la escuela o en universidades salen a trabajar en diferentes áreas. Una de ellas es la minería, con el fin de ayudar con el sustento alimenticio. El oro en la zona del sur, su mal manejo ha traído que hectáreas de tierras y kilómetros de aguas hayan dejado de existir. Los pocos abuelos que quedan están sufriendo porque dicen que nuestro futuro, que son los niños, están creciendo y no les estamos asegurando un buen vivir.
Along the Cuyuni River, well inside the Imataca Forest Reserve, there is a mining area, the size of which is equivalent to 6,300 professional soccer fields. Venezuela is the Amazonian country with the greatest number of illegal mines. To date, SOS Orinoco has identified 680 mining sectors, occupying 51,286 hectares, and this figure is on the rise. In Canaima National Park alone, there are at least 59 illegal mining sectors inside the park and outside along its boundaries, and some are barely 23 kilometers from Angel Falls. Open-pit mining operations obliterate the natural habitat of thousands of species and change the topography. They tear apart the structure of the soil, which is poor in itself as it is among the most archaic on the planet. Once the mining operations have done their damage, the re-establishment of vegetation that has taken thousands of years to take root and thrive becomes almost impossible. Venezuela ranks 10th in the world with respect to its wealth in fauna and flora and has been classified as a mega biodiverse country. 288 of its fauna species are considered to be in danger of extinction, and 560 of its flora species are in a situation of threat. Gold mining operations in Venezuela make use of mercury and cyanide that are devastating for the river ecosystems and for human health. Water cannons create pressurized jets of water that break up the layers of gold-bearing rocks and soil in the forests or along the riverbanks. Likewise, these gold-bearing rocks and clays are then mixed with water and poured into an inclined sluice box, which catches the heavier gold-bearing material that drops out of the slurry, trickling down the sluice box. This heavier material is then mixed with the mercury, which adheres to the gold, thus forming an amalgam. This amalgam is then heated to isolate the gold. The mercury evaporates from the amalgam and goes into the atmosphere in the form of gas. Miners come into direct contact with the mercury as they mix it in with the gold-bearing material. Miners involved in heating the mercury-containing amalgam breathe in the resulting mercury vapors. And what about the waste material consisting of rocks and clay containing mercury? Well, that's all thrown directly into the rivers. The waterways and fish, as well as the rest of the river fauna, become contaminated and poisoned. All the remaining mercury-contaminated waste material ends up in the rivers, and it flows and spreads downstream. The Pamon indigenous people of Canaima, Gran Sabana, and the Yicuana and Sanema people carry 5 times the permissible levels of mercury in their blood.
Para responder cuál es mi concepto de la minería ilegal al sur del Orinoco, es un desastre. La consecuencia de la minería sobre los pueblos indígenas es la destrucción total de su cultura, es la pérdida total de sus valores, es la inversión completa, es la pérdida de su originalidad y de sus tradiciones culturales totales. Mi nombre completo es Charles Brewer Carías. Sobre mi profesión es difícil hablar porque tengo muchos intereses y muchas actividades. Yo podría decir que soy escritor, explorador, fotógrafo. Fui odontólogo durante 20 años, pero mi profesión actual, a lo que yo me dedico, es a escribir y hacer expediciones. La aceleración de la pérdida de la información, la pérdida del conocimiento de la cultura de la selva, la pérdida de los remedios, de la medicina, de la información que ellos han heredado a lo largo de 20.000 años. Se sabe, por ejemplo, que el pijiguao tiene 10.000 años de cultivo continuo y de mejoramiento. O sea, esa educación de la selva se ha perdido en menos de una generación.
Desde unos años atrás estamos sufriendo una invasión sin control en el territorio Pemón. Existe el temor de perder la poca tierra que nos queda. Los recursos minerales son el foco del mundo y está aquí en la Gran Sabana, y nosotros sentimos que nadie se preocupa si estamos bien.
All the soil that is removed ends up as sedimentation in the rivers, which becomes a critical issue because it has an adverse effect on the generation of hydroelectric power. More than 60% of the country's hydroelectric production depends on the Caroni and Paragua river basins. SOS Orinoco estimated that approximately 70% of the course of the Caroni River may have been severely disrupted by the gold mining operations. The resulting sediments affect the performance of the hydroelectric plants and the life cycle of their reservoirs. Along the Cuyuni River, as well as at Las Claritas and at the site known as Kilometer 88, people live near the gold mines, surrounded by settling pools and ponds left by the mining operations, which become ideal breeding areas for mosquitoes that transmit malaria. In southern Venezuela, there is an explosive malaria epidemic that is clearly associated with the mining operations. In the year 2019, Venezuela accounted for 53% of the malaria cases in South America. 398,285 new cases. And more than 70% of these cases are found south of the Orinoco River in the mining areas. All this in pursuit of immediate wealth. In Venezuela, the coltan and gold supply chain moves under a cloak of apparent legality that serves to hide a criminal matrix. According to a report posted on the Info Amazonia website, the business of mining coltan illegally, for example, is shared with the Colombian guerrilla forces that operate in the Paguasa region. In Venezuela, the coltan and gold supply chain moves under a cloak of apparent legality that serves to hide a criminal matrix. According to a report posted on the Info Amazonia website, the business of mining coltan illegally, for example, is shared with the Colombian guerrilla forces that operate in the Paguasa region, with complicity and participation by Venezuela's military armed forces. The Colombian guerrillas purchase the extracted material for a fraction of its international price and then transport it along smuggling routes into Colombia and Guyana. It ultimately reaches distant countries such as Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and China. The same report states that a mutual respect exists between Venezuela's armed forces and the Colombian guerrilla forces, given that whenever they cross paths, neither one interferes with the other's extortion and smuggling activities. The low price and easy access to this gold that is being extracted and commercialized illegally generates eager buyers that include not just the traditional mafia, but also large, well-known firms that manufacture and market gold products. However, there are important companies such as the Royal Canadian Mint, which announced in January of 2021 that it was no longer purchasing gold from a certain company in Guyana, because of its connections with illegal mining operations in Venezuela. The region south of the Orinoco River is inhabited by 27 indigenous peoples and represents 24% of the nation's indigenous population. 1,500 communities, 200,000 individuals, many of whom end up working at the mines for a lack of better alternatives. There has been a proliferation of violent conflicts, including massacres, homicides, disappearances, forced amputations, death threats, as well as persecution of indigenous people by Spanish-speaking non-indigenous miners, known as criollos. To a large extent, the mining operations make use of child labor under conditions of semi-slavery. Likewise, there is human trafficking aimed at sexual exploitation. This context of violence, together with the complex human crisis, has resulted in the forced relocation of entire indigenous communities into bordering countries. Meanwhile, Brazilian miners, known as garimpeiros, attracted by the mining activity, continue to move in. We must end this human, environmental, and cultural destruction. We must also prevent its recurrence. This is no ecocide. This is suicide. We're all guilty or responsible through our direct actions and by our negligence in this destruction, in failing to realize the severity of the damage. Today, we are suffering the consequences, and we are all responsible. But a transformation is possible.
Obviamente, claro que lo veo posible si se controla la minería, porque el querer hacer desaparecer la minería cuando es descubierta es imposible. Es como si tú conoces de los teléfonos celulares. Vamos a desaparecer los teléfonos celulares. No es posible. Vamos a reglamentar el uso de los teléfonos celulares. Vamos a reglamentar la minería de manera de que sea provechosa para el individuo, para el país, para los ecosistemas.
What can you do as an individual? Obtain information from experts and truly knowledgeable people who study and analyze the situation. Know the facts and the consequences. Share that information. Follow and support one of the organizations that is acting responsibly concerning this situation that is unfolding south of the Orinoco River. They will propose ways in which you can help in a proper and effective manner. Hold responsible those countries that purchase these blood-stained minerals extracted illegally, as well as countries that export mercury and are involved in the supply chain. insist on compliance with the OECD Treaty, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Treaty, which requires that gold products be certified as having legal origin. Demand that UNESCO include Canaima National Park on the list of World Heritage Sites in danger. A positive structured strategy is necessary, starting with a land use plan, while following a clear path towards goals that have been politically agreed upon. All the data must be compiled and organized by professional researchers, and this must have the support of the public. Find out, teach, protect, participate.